December episode of the ISSA Canada Coffee Talk Forum. Today we're bringing the sexy back to business insurance, which is options. I'm pleased to introduce our special guest today, Ian Foo, and his colleague, Michael Hill. Ian is Director of Business Strategy and Development, and Michael is Executive Underwriter for ISSA Canada's business insurance provider, TruShield. Today we'll learn who TruShield is, what they have to offer ISSA Canada members, and to think about when considering insurance. Ian, Michael, welcome. Now let's get excited about insurance.
Sorry. Wonderful intro, Tanya. I really appreciate that. If we're talking about bringing the sexy back, I'm not sure if Michael and I are the right people to do that, but we will do our best, hopefully, to leave everybody here with a few nuggets, a few key pieces of information that perhaps you haven't thought about before. Appreciate everyone's time. Time is our greatest asset, and to give us an hour to talk about insurance, close to the holidays. We are thankful that you're spending this time here with us. As Tanya mentioned, we're both on team TruShield, and we are a Canadian-based insurance company focused solely on micro businesses, small businesses, independent contractors, new entrepreneurs, startups. That segment of the market that I think what we saw early in our journey was they were underserved in the insurance market. And TruShield is part of Northbridge, which is a much larger Canadian commercial insurance company. And ultimately, we all roll into the Fairfax group. But TruShield launched about 5 years ago, really as its own kind of innovative sandbox within the Northbridge organization. And we're tasked with in a more effective way. And our goal, ultimately, we want to be the best in the business. And when we talk about serving micro business owners, small business owners, traditionally how the insurance industry worked with we would work with large organizations, whether you have one employee and you make, call it $100,000 a year, or if you make 500 million with 500 employees. The process, they'd ask you a whole host of questions about your business, what you do, where you are, your revenues, all that kind of stuff. May take a couple of business days for somebody to get back to you. And, here's your quote, are you still interested? That process, in our view, was just too convoluted, too lengthy. And as an insurance organization, do we really need to pay that much attention to somebody who's just trying to get off the ground, or they're an independent contractor, or they don't have any employees? How do we simplify that journey? And ultimately, our vision is to become a fully digital service model. We do, and we always will have a contact center full of licensed insurance experts, but our kind of key differentiator is really ease. So insurance, you could argue, is a commodity. Coverages are relatively similar across the board. We're highly regulated, rates are regulated. And so really the differentiator is, how do we make it simple, easy? Most of the customers that come to our front door can actually get a quote themselves online. They can purchase coverage online. We try to make that as transparent and simplistic as possible, while giving you the confidence, the details, answering some of those questions that are really important as to what a small business owner would need to protect their business in an adequate way. So, as I mentioned again, our journey is predominantly online. We are building out future items kind of in our roadmap for the next few years to bring servicing online as well, claim submissions online, and just making sure that, again, as much as somebody would want to, you can speak to an expert over the phone, but you can also kind of tackle some of those service and sales items for insurance completely on your own. So that's kind of who we are, what we do. Again, our vision is to make the insurance process as simple, affordable as possible for business owners like yourselves. And I spoke to this already, kind of where we focus, what our customers look like. Ultimately, TruShield can protect a business with up to $5 million in revenue. If you're larger than that, we do have sister companies within the Northbridge umbrella that may be able to serve your needs as well. But as we mentioned, our niche and who we're really, really good at helping is in that smaller, under $500,000 in annual revenue, contractors, business owners of that type.
Mhm.
Talked about how, our digital journey. I'm biased and I wear a few different hats, and one of those hats is kind of overseeing our digital journey optimization, making it sure that it's as clean, easy to use, concise as possible. But we were, again, first to market in this country, and to this day, from start to finish, if I'm in janitorial services, residential cleaning, those types of professions that are relevant to this group, you can, again, answer some of those questions online, choose all the coverages that you think are relevant to you, and purchase it completely online in a handful of minutes. So that's kind of where we make it, again, super easy for business owners like yourselves. So that is a bit of the background as to who we are, our brand, how we're different from other players in the market. I will hand the mic over to Michael, who is our he's our executive underwriter. He's our resident expert on all things insurance related, coverage related, risk related, and he'll walk through, as small business owners, what are some of the things that you should be mindful of and what you should be looking for.
Thanks, Ian. And I agree with you. I think we're definitely number one small business online. So I don't. I know you said you're biased, and I am too. But we look at other products that are out there and other journeys out there, and definitely the best out there, definitely. So really, just quickly, and we can take questions as well as they come up. But and the bulleted items, really, business insurance is there to protect businesses from lawsuits that arise, and whether that's as a result of a service that you're providing, if that service happens to cause somebody to suffer a bodily injury or a property damage, that's what business insurance is there for. Financial implications, and in looking at the the janitorial and the housekeeping services operations, typically, some of the exposures you guys are going to be facing going to be slip and fall exposures, and the average slip and fall exposure loss is really sitting at around $30,000. So, what are the implications of that? What are the implications of a $30,000 claim on any business? But when you're talking about a small business or a startup, a $30,000 loss, the financial implications are going to be huge. Peace of mind, absolutely, for you guys as business owners, but also, and I suspect a lot of your clients are going to require that you have a liability policy in place. But even for those that don't require that, going to enhance your reputation as a business to be able to say, this is what I have, and I have, $2 million of liability coverage, or $5 million, or whatever it is. It's going to enhance your reputation as a business as well. So 3 of the ways that we've highlighted that a business could be at risk, and thinking that the service that I'm providing, I don't charge a lot for that service, or the product that I'm selling is inexpensive. There's really no chance that that I'm going to be exposed. And the one thing, again, average slip and fall is $30,000. You may not be charging exorbitant prices for the services you're providing, but you still, you're still exposed to claims like that. I think to dollar stores, and I know you guys are a dollar store, but when you go into a dollar store and the products that are being sold are super inexpensive, tremendous exposures from you're selling a stuffed animal that, that a child, that the eyes could fall out of, and choking hazard for kids. Again, inexpensive services, inexpensive products, but it doesn't mean that you're, that you couldn't be exposed to loss. Not having coverage for the most significant exposures. I mean, I think for you guys, it's going to be commercial general liability, but at the end of the day, if you own the building that you're operating out of, there's a significant exposure that you're going to want to make sure that you have coverage for. The equipment, the tools that you have that you require to do your jobs. I mean, again, something you'd want to consider as well. As the business grows, excuse me, you may start off, with low revenues, but as your revenue starts to grow, you're purchasing more equipment, more tools. So you want to make sure that you're on top of keeping those limits up to date. If you change locations, if you purchase a building down the street, you're going to want to make sure that the insurance company is aware that you've moved, to make sure that your coverage, is now applicable to that new location. So yeah, really quickly, and I kind of chuckle. I mean, I could talk about any one of these for a long time, but I won't put you guys through that pain. I put Ian through some of that pain in the past, but
you're passionate and you're excited about the product that I just don't think many of the audience can match.
No, I suspect that's probably true.
Yeah.
Probably true. Anyways, we'll be really quick. And again, if you guys have questions, certainly, you can certainly ask. But as far as some of the coverages that you really need to be keeping an eye on, property insurance. So it's your stuff, right? I mean, it's your equipment, your stock, your supplies. If you do own the building that you're operating out of, I mean, that's where the building would come in as well. Commercial auto insurance, if you're using a vehicle to operate your business, you're going to need to look for commercial auto insurance as well. Commercial general liability insurance, to me, is going to be the foundation for any policy that you have. And in fact, like I said before, many clients are going to require that you have that coverage before they're even going to let you onto their premises. So, again, commercial general liability, designed to respond to situations where a service that you're providing, in your case, is deemed to be responsible for causing somebody to suffer a bodily injury or a property damage. Business interruption income. It's definitely going to be a bigger component for somebody that operates a retail store, or they say they have a manufacturing facility. But I mean, there's still an exposure for you guys as well. And if because of a fire, as an example, you lose your equipment and tools, how long is that going to shut your business down for? So that's, I mean, can you withstand your business being shut down for any length of time? If the location you're operating out of, say you own the building, and say that building suffers a fire, again, how long can you withstand not being able to operate with that building being down, right? I suspect that, for what you guys are doing, you'd be pretty nimble and you'd be able to respond fairly quickly, but I think it's still something that you need to think about and consider. Cyber risk, an exposure that certainly as an insurance company, we're seeing claims come through under that cover more and more often. We certainly hear about it in the news. Some of the higher profile ones, Home Depot, trying to think of some of the other ones, and the names escape me, but there have been a number of high profile ones. So, at the end of the day, if you have client information and, you're dealing with client information, and then I think it's something that you need to be thinking about when it comes to cyber breach or cyber risk exposure. Professional liability insurance doesn't really apply to us, so we will kind of move on.
Okay, these are good examples. Love for you to walk through this.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, the easy one for us here is, you're cleaning a floor and somebody slips and falls and injures themselves, right? Again, CGL policy is designed to respond to this kind of exposure. So in this case, somebody slips and falls and hurts themselves, that would be considered a bodily injury.
Here we go.
So on the property damage side, you've got a container full of cleaner sitting on the floor, and you accidentally knock it over and it spills onto carpeting. That's considered a property damage, and again, something that the commercial general liability policy is designed to respond to as well.
Okay.
So yeah, the things that, and we can go to the next one there, Ian, I think that'd be fine. Just the key factors. And of course, what is your business? We know that, what you guys are doing, but, if you're a plumber, or, a plumber is going to have a different exposure than a janitorial service or an electrician. So it's important that we understand what it is that you do, and then charge for that particular exposure. Where is the business? That's certainly, from a crime, I think it's more of a crime. If there are crime issues in an area, where you're located, then, the coverage of your property from a theft perspective, the rating for that could be a little higher. And, if you've got two janitorial services risks, one has annual revenue of 50,000 and the other one has annual revenue of 100,000, you just know that the exposure for the one that has 100,000 in revenue is going to be double that of the risk that only has 50,000. Now, to be fair, your rates aren't going to double, but they might be a little higher just to take that additional exposure into account.
And Michael, just to chime in, I think,
Yep.
The really good news for everyone on this call is, and the reason why we partner with ISSA is we noticed we tend to over-index and do really well with this segment of customers. And part of it is, I guess, from a risk perspective, it's just rated really well, and we're really competitive against the market. So, it depends on a lot of factors, so don't quote me on this, but in general, the premiums that we see in order to cover a business kind of in this industry is really, really quite affordable. And it's among our kind of lowest, policy rates across the board. So just to keep that in mind, because one of the misconceptions that, TruShield is trying to work through is either business owners who think, I don't need it, or they think it's too expensive. So, just being in this industry for as long as we both have, we could argue both. And certainly on the affordability, I think we're as low as about $40 a month to really make sure that you've covered off your bases. So just, again, if this was a group of, could be anything else that, where the rates may be quite a bit higher, but I think specifically for those in the cleaning industry, we are very competitive in that space.
Yeah, and to Ian's point, it doesn't, you definitely need to do your due diligence and you need to shop around. And but certainly online you could take a quick look and you could compare it to other quotes you're getting as well. And and I'm sure that I suspect it's going to be tough to beat it, but you have to shop around. So. Claims history is always a predictor of future claims. So always want to know that. And of course, coverage limits. If you're going from a 2 million to a 5 million limit, it's gonna change your pricing as well. But it really is. It's again, and I say it's inexpensive to move from a 2 million limit to a 5 million limit. And the reason being that as an insurance company, if we expect claims to happen within that first layer. So that's why to get those additional limits is quite cheap. So I always say, I mean, businesses always say, how much should we buy? And you should always buy as much as you can afford, quite honestly. $2 million doesn't really go as far as it used to, but I mean, from a claim standpoint, certainly $1 million doesn't go very far. Yeah, buy as much as certainly as you can afford. Now, U.S. or international revenue is always going to be a factor for us. Now, hopefully it's not something that you guys are getting involved in. But I would suggest that if you are traveling into the States, if you have U.S. customers, it's going to be really difficult for you to get coverage for that. But I suspect that you're not, and you're dealing with local.
And why is that, Michael? So, because the U.S./international business thing kind of pops up quite a bit. So, what is it about the U.S. that kind of makes us a little hesitant?
Yeah, it's defense costs. Defense costs is usually where the costs of a claim occur. But certainly the what's the word? Can't think of the word, but what is awarded in the States it tends to be much higher than it is in Canada. And again, it in most cases, it's not even final damages. It's actually the defense costs to that the insurance company incurs to defend lawsuits and things like that happen.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. That's all we have. I think our goal was to not talk at you for more than about 20 minutes, and we were very close. Yeah, we would open it up. This is kind of one of those topics that it's almost asking questions and kind of specific questions, perhaps about your business we've seen in the past kind of adds the most value. So love to open up the floor to see if anybody has any thoughts, comments, questions. Judith looks like you may.
She's getting ready to pounce.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I sent some questions to Tanya.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these talks that we have are being rewatched. So I just thought that I would kind of ask some specifics. You answered some of it, but one of my question would be is like, do you have any case study maybe where you worked with the janitorial company and maybe they didn't have something that we maybe should be watching out for in our industry to make sure that we have coverage for some specifics? Or is it all like just an umbrella coverage?
Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing, the foundation for any policy that you're going to buy, and we sell a lot of policies where they simply purchase commercial general liability coverage. For whatever reason, they don't feel that they want to insure their equipment and their tools and their supplies. In a lot of cases, those amounts are quite low. You have to remember they have $1,000 deductible on that stuff. So, I think it's something that every business kind of has to evaluate whether, they want to pay the premium, understand that they have $1,000 deductible. Do they think do they want to deal with that exposure on their own, or do they, so I think every case is unique, really. But certainly, again, commercial general liability, certain property, all kinds of property coverage that you could be purchasing if you feel the need, business interruption cover, cyber, the stuff that we've been, that we went through. I think it's really up to you guys as individuals to decide, what your risk tolerance is and how much insurance you want to buy.
So on that business interruption, is COVID covered? So
Yes,
what if
that was my question
again? Sorry, Tanya. I'm just listening and then questions popping up in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
No, it's not. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Okay.
That's I mean, that's a standard exclusion out in the insurance industry. Generally, that's not to say that there aren't larger corporations that have been able to obtain that coverage through negotiation, but I mean, it's not a cover that's provided out in the industry generally.
Yeah, the reason for that question is because there were a lot of a sector of our membership includes residential cleaners, and when the COVID first started and the pandemic unrolled, they were all shut down and they weren't allowed to go into homes to clean. Right. So that's why, like, that was my question too, because that is business interruption to a sense, right?
Yeah, it's not an insurable. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Judith, your other question about the carpet.
Yeah. So
the flooring, rather.
Yeah. So this is just an example. Like, just wanted to kind of see so our listeners can understand what might happen in our industry and how would the premiums or what the consequences would be. So if you were to have to put in a claim, and for example, in a cleaning, you damage the floor and the floor needs to be replaced. It was an accident. It wasn't deliberate or anything like that. So let's say there's a $12,000 claim. What the consequences would be? How would it affect your premiums? How long? All this kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, so the one thing I'd like to say is that the circumstances of a claim at the time of the loss are going to dictate how the company responds to it, right? Because every situation is going to be different. So it's hard to say categorically that this is the way things are going to happen. But again, the commercial general liability policy is designed to respond to those types of situations. So, I mean, that's what I can say to you about that. Would it affect your premium going forward? It could, but I mean, you know, at the end of the day, what underwriters like to see is they like to see that the business is they're taking measures to try to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Like if there was a reason for it happening, that you've taken corrective action. And I mean, insurance is, I mean, that's what we're there for, right? We are there for that. But if it keeps happening, that's when it becomes problematic, and we're not there to be doing.
Oh no, this is just a one-time situation. Or another one could be that, you know, we are on the premises when something happens with the toilet and it starts leaking and it floods the house, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, it's circumstances of the loss, right? If you're legally liable for that, for causing that damage, then the commercial general liability policy is going to, it's there to respond to that situation. I mean,
so you're going to be protected, because I am the business owner. So this is what we struggle with, is that we send people out to do the work. And of course we have a training program in place, and, you know, we talk about, you know, when you're using certain type of products to make sure you cover the floor around it. Like when you're cleaning an oven, or, you know, if the toilet is leaking, or you notice something, to notify the customer right away and things like that. But, you know, there's things happen. It's just Murphy's Law, right? Mm-hmm. Things are going to happen. So as a business owner, I feel confident in my insurance that if anything, my team was going to get into some sort of trouble like that, we're protected.
Right. Judith, now is your team, are they employees of yours, or are they independent contractors?
Employees.
Employees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So that a risk would ultimately fall to you. But Michael, like, that's a great question. And I'm not sure I know the answer to that, because, you know, as an example, in the personal space for auto insurance, if you have a claim or you get into an accident, you know, if you don't have, outside of like accident forgiveness, or you might get one claim kind of waived type thing, that should, in theory, the next year raise your rates, you know, the following year. Mike, is that not as clean cut in the commercial space, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, it isn't. It really isn't. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not definite that your pricing is going to be going up. I mean, it's not to say that it might go up a bit more than maybe it otherwise would have, but it's really about, the underwriter following up with you, and you're talking about training issues, or you're talking about, like, these are all great things. These are things that underwriters want to see. And important for you to keep your business moving forward, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, you want nobody, I mean, losses happen, but you do want to take whatever measures you can to make sure that you're controlling, the exposures that are out there. And it sounds like you're doing exactly that. I mean, you're training your employees, you're giving them instructions on how to respond to certain situations. So, yeah, but like Ian said, it's not, you have a loss, your pricing goes up a certain amount. Like, I mean, if what I would say is, if you had a second loss, you would start to see, some of those increases and major concerns from the insurance company that, you've had a second one, and, it looks like we're going to be seeing these on a regular basis. So you may even start to have issues finding coverage at that point in time.
Oh God, hopefully not.
Well, but you know what? But that's why it's good to talk about it, and that's why it's
Yeah.
good for you to make sure that it is important that you have controls in place to make sure that you're minimizing your exposure as a company.
Yeah, I mean, I myself, as a business, I do have a budget line for customer damages, because it does happen. And I mean, we do close to 300 visits a month. So there's no way every single one of them are going to run perfectly. So, if we break a glass or whatever, we have ways to replace that. But when it comes to bigger items, sometimes, and sometimes what I have found as well is that you have to do a lot of investigation, because I had once been accused, my team was accused of chipping kitchen cabinets because we were using too much water to wash it. And then after a whole bunch of investigation and whatnot, and just looking at the contracts and whatnot, it turned out that it was already chipping. And the customer wanted to take advantage of us. They wanted to get the cabinets fixed on our insurance when we had nothing to do with it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and we do investigate claims. There's no doubt about it. But it is helpful to the claims department to receive that feedback from you as well, right? I mean, like, it's tremendous if like you seem to be very in touch with your customers, and yeah, if you have that information from a claims perspective, I mean, we certainly want to know about it as well. That's
it didn't go to a claim, because we done a lot of pre-work, because I didn't want it to go to a claim. I did talk to my insurance company, but yeah, it's a lot of I think also just have to be diligent on doing your own investigation sometime before you contact the insurance company.
Yeah, and from your standpoint, maybe it makes sense for you to handle some of those smaller ones yourself. I mean, and hang on to insurance for those that maybe are a little bigger. I mean,
Oh yeah, the damages that we have is very small, maybe a dent in the wall or something. So I have a handyman, and he can go and fix it, and cost me $200. Obviously, I'm not gonna call the insurance company for that, right? So yeah, no. Anyway, so I don't want to overthink. Maybe some of the other people on the call have some questions.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, please pipe in. But in terms of insurance, like what is the general offering that you guys would suggest to ensure that all the coverage is there for people?
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to take that?
I've been asked this before, so I'd love to take that. I think
okay.
The first and foremost, and really the foundation of any commercial policy, is that general liability piece. So at a bare minimum, and that's the bare bones, call it $40 a month, $2 million. That just covers, I think, well, actually, yeah, maybe I shouldn't speak to this because I'm not licensed to do so, but it essentially covers what may happen as it relates to a third party. And that's I think, most kind of important and potentially costly event that a business may face, is as it relates to a customer, a third party, anybody, as it relates to damages, bodily injury, that kind of stuff. That is the backbone of kind of all insurance. And if you're considering it, that's the first place to go. The other pieces that Michael, alluded to before, and we offer specific coverages based on the business that you're in. So in this segment, business interruption is always going to be there. Contents, tools and equipment based on what you're using to operate your business. Property ownership, Michael brought up, if you own a building. Commercial auto, specifically if you're using, a car within the company to get to, the properties that you're cleaning. It's all really dependent on your own comfort level as to which of these individual aspects am I willing to bear the risk on, or which would I actually prefer to be protected on. And that's my 2 cents. Michael, what would you say to that?
Yeah, no, that's good job. Yeah, no, yeah, that's yeah. No, I had spoken to that a bit before, but yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
So when it comes to the commercial auto piece, is it for individual vehicles, or is it available for companies with fleets, or both?
Both. Yeah. I mean, we actually, TruShield we don't write fleets because we're focusing on smaller, startups but yeah, no, individual vehicles that are, again, used in the business, right? Commercial vehicle.
I guess I should clarify by fleet, more than 3.
Yeah, for us, it's actually it's over 5. So we, and quite honestly, it's not to say that we couldn't write a fleet, but when it comes to auto business, and I'll speak to Ontario specifically, we file auto rates in Ontario, and we'd be more than happy to charge everybody filed rates on 6 vehicles or 7 vehicles, but you're much better off to go to a company that can actually provide you fleet rating, and they would actually discount the filed rates. But all companies, if it's not a fleet, you have to follow the filed rates that they filed with the province. So again, important that you shop around for that as well, because some of the rates that we file for a given class may be higher than others or lower than other companies, and it's important to really to look into that and make sure you're getting the best deal possible.
So when it comes to business insurance, from your involvement obviously in this industry, what is the piece that's the most oftentimes overlooked when it comes to risk mitigation, for example?
Not specifically a coverage question, right? I mean,
yeah, like what is the piece? Like if somebody contacts you, but they don't even think about it.
Yeah, I mean, right now, quite honestly, it's cyber.
Yeah.
Cyber exposure. I mean, it's, and again, it's easy for us to say that I feel like it'd be the best $175 anybody had ever spent, based on what we're seeing out there. But I know that sometimes, when you're starting up, $175, can be tough, right? But yeah, definitely cyber coverage. And again, really important that it's a fairly new coverage. So it's the the coverages that are being offered by different companies are they're different.
Right.
So it's important that you make sure that you when you're shopping around, you really understand what coverages that they're actually providing you with.
So when it comes to that, Pete, to the cyber, what does that entail? Is that like ransomware? Is that stolen data, financial information?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, to really not to get really too in depth on it, but you're really talking about it's divided up into first party coverage and third party coverage. So first party coverage would be, you know, your business itself, and you know, dealing if you have a breach, there are costs associated with that breach. So that would first party coverage. You know, restoring data for you, first party coverage. Some business interruption coverage as well, and extortion. So that would be first party. Third party would very simply if you happen to if a customer picks up a virus that shuts their business down and causes them to suffer a financial loss as a result of your business. If you send them something and it spreads a virus to their computer, that's kind of where third party coverage is going.
Oh, okay.
So you have to look at both of those. And a lot of companies that are out there actually provide first party cover, but they're not providing any third party cover. And limits as well, I mean, are all over the place. So you really, again, you need to understand what limits you're getting from a first and third party perspective, right?
Interesting.
And yeah, just quickly, Tanya, it's very timely because last week I saw a wonderful piece of research. So we enlisted a market research firm to interview 400 small businesses around everything related to risk. And a big topic within that was cyber. And some of the findings were logically, they made sense. Typically, the larger the organization, the more likely they would have experienced a cyber attack in the past. And have some degree of cyber protection, either in their security software, their IT systems, having cyber insurance coverage. And of course, you know, if you're a very small company, you're less likely to have, you know, those items. But what we know is happening for sure is there's a marked increase in cyber related incidents happening, and is increasing. And these small business owners who think, you know, my organization is so small, why would people even bother, you know, stealing my data, attacking my website, this kind of thing? You know, valid point, but those are increasing. And the important piece is the impact, like the potential financial impact and the severity of what a cyber related incident could cause is unlimited, right? Damaging somebody's home or a slip and fall is really isolated to that specific kind of incident. A cyber incident can just blow out of proportion really quickly. So that's kind of our thoughts on that. Again, up to each individual business owner to say, how comfortable am I with that risk? But it is growing substantially in this day and age for sure. And if something like that happens, the impact to your business can be exponential for sure.
Wow.
And to kind of piggyback on Ian's comments, I mean, small businesses are targeted because they're not protected as well as a more established, larger corporation as well, right? So, you know, I mean, you know, thieves see the opportunity, and you know, it's I mean, it's inexpensive. I mean, it's easy and it's inexpensive for these thieves to hack. I mean, you know, read something the other day that talked about, you know, when we own a building, we have a sprinkler system in the building, and we buy insurance. So when we have security software and firewall, why are companies not buying cyber insurance as well? So I mean, it's kind of a neat analogy, and again, it's for for $175. I think it's a pretty
interesting.
Yeah.
So we have members that range from coast to coast. So do you find any specific trends when it comes to, say, someone on the East Coast purchasing insurance as compared to someone on the West Coast? Like, are there any common threads, or are there requirements different?
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, we talked to our Eastern regional counterparts, and surprisingly, it's actually, I know that the rest of the country doesn't like to be seen as being similar to Toronto, and but incredible how similar everything is. Like the small businesses, I mean, like we're very, I'll say it, but we're very similar. We really are. I mean, certainly from an insurance needs, I mean, are very similar. On the West Coast, you're going to have earthquake exposure. In certain areas, Montreal and Ottawa would have those exposures, and there are areas in Canada that have flood exposures, which are concerning to everybody, insurance companies as well. But other than that, I mean, if you take those things out, I mean, a janitorial service on the East Coast is the same as a janitorial service on the West Coast, and in between. So it's amazing how similar we are. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other questions? If not, do you guys have any final comments?
Just a big thank you for having us. Really, we're excited about it, but it's always a pleasure to talk to people who are willing to listen as to what we're up to and what we would recommend, business owners like yourself. And again, appreciate your time, and wishing everybody a wonderful holiday and a happy new year.
Thank you, Ian, Michael, guests. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will include a contact information at the end of the video. So if you have any further questions, you can reach out directly to Ian or Michael. And I thank you. And we hope to reconvene again in January for the next coffee talk. Happy holidays, everybody.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks.
For more information on TruShield and how to access this ISSA Canada member benefit, please visit www.issa-canada.com or log in to your MyISSA account. Protect your business with affordable coverage. Get your quote today.